Welcome to J4K and end-to-end portable microservices with Eclipse MicroProfile. My name is Ivar Grimstad, and I'm the Jakarta EE developer advocate at Eclipse Foundation. This is my contact information, and feel free to contact me at any time with questions regarding MicroProfile, Eclipse Foundation, or Jakarta EE. During this talk, I will be available in the chat, so you can ask me questions while watching this recording. This talk is about MicroProfile. And MicroProfile is a set of APIs that builds on top of Java EE technologies. The Java EE technologies that MicroProfile is building on is CDI, JSON-P, JAX-RS, and JSON-B. And this is basically what you need to create a simple REST endpoint. On top of this, MicroProfile gives you support for tracing, for documentations, for calling other services, for externalized configuration, for fallback and fault tolerance handling, for metrics, security, as well as health checks. The current version of MicroProfile is version 3.3, and there is a version 4.0 coming up later this year. So stay tuned for that one. There are lots of implementations of MicroProfile, and I'll show a bunch of these in this talk. So to find information about MicroProfile, navigate to microprofile.io. Here you can find information about the project, the specifications, and how to get involved. If you want to get started by using MicroProfile, I can recommend checking out the MicroProfile Starter. This is the best way to start a new project using MicroProfile, and I'll use this in this talk. So let's dive into the code and start by creating a simple greeting application using the MicroProfile Starter. So I'll navigate to the starter, which is located at startmicroprofile.io, and then I'll fill in the information. I'll use the COM example. I'll fill in the name, greeting for my application. I'll choose the version 3.3 of MicroProfile and Open Liberty as the runtime. Then I'll download the zip file generated for me, unzip it to my computer, put it in the J4K folder. There you go. And open this one in my IDE. So go there, import the downloads greeting application. It's a Maven-based project, and I'll go directly into the folder. You can see it's a Maven project, and I'll use the Maven Liberty Dev plugin, so it will start in development mode. So while this one is starting, let's go in and have a look at the code. One thing you can notice by going into the Maven POM is that there's one dependency in the project, and this is the MicroProfile dependency. And as you are familiar with Java EE and Jakarta EE, this is a provided dependency for you. So implementation is giving you the functionality, and you're just using the APIs in your application to create it. And the rest of this is a vendor-specific configuration for Open Liberty. And it gives you, among other things, the Liberty Development Mode plugin, which I'm showing now. The first time you're starting it, it takes a little time because it downloads a lot of stuff. But the subsequent starts will be significantly faster. Let's go in and look at the code. So it's a simple REST applications in the data endpoint, and using the hello for this particular resource, and returns the text hello world. So let's go and check out how it looks. I'll just HTTP here. It's on port 9080 data hello, and you can see it returns hello world. And the dev mode plugin in Liberty is that if I do any changes in my application here, it will reload, and I can call it again, and you can see that the changes has been picked up. So that's good. So far, so good. This is not a very interesting application, so let's make it a little bit more advanced. What I want to do is to create an application that is helpful for me when I'm traveling to conferences. Currently, this is not a problem since I'm mostly at home doing these virtual talks. But I hope to be back on the road again. And then it's important for a speaker to know where you are, what talk you're going to do, at what time, at what conference. So it's very useful to have a service running on your laptop. So when you wake up in the morning, you just hit refresh in the button and it will tell you where you are and what you're going to do that day. And that's what my service is going to do. And of course, I could just hardcode this text and recompile it every night and start it. But it's much better and more convenient for me to have a configurable service that would just pick up everything and present me the results without me having to compile it when I arrive at the hotel in the evening. So I'll create this one as a set of services that will be configurable and give me the information that I'm looking for. So the first service I'm going to make is a location service to figure out where I am. And this one is going to return the text at J4K in this particular case. And for this one, I'm going to use Quarkus. So let's go and use the starter again. And this time I'll call this service for location. I'll choose version 3.2 of MicroProfile this time. And I'm going to use Quarkus. You see there are a lot of examples I can choose here. But in this demo, I'll using the plain application and just code these examples myself. So I'll download the location service, and the same way as with the greeting service I started with, I'll just unzip it to the J4K folder, and I'll import it to my IDE. And we'll have a look at it. So here you see the location service. It's also a Maven-based project. And for this location service, I'm actually going to do some configuration because Quarkus is developing pretty fast, and the version you get from the starter is actually not the latest one. So let's go in here and change to the 1.7.2, which is the latest version of Quarkus. And in this case, they've actually changed it so it's a jar-based deployment. And for later of this version, I'm also going to add the JSON Web Token dependency. So I'll have this one configured for me. And the Quarkus also comes with development mode. So this is the location service. I can run Maven Quarkus dev. And before I do that, actually, I'm going to set the port it's running on. So let's find the Quarkus port configuration and set it to 8484, and then I'll start it. So this one runs in dev mode as well, so I can do changes along the way. And let's look at the source code here. It's just the same as the greeting service. It's a REST application on the context data, and it has the hello resource. So let's rename this to location. And rather than returning hello world, or let's go in and have a look at it, HTTP, and it's 8484 data location. Let me see, it returns hello world. Let's add this one so it will return the text at J4K. So I'll configure this one by saying the configuration property called place equals J4K. Then I'll go in here and inject this property. Inject the configuration. So now I'm using the MicroProfile config. I'll have a string called place. And rather than hello world, I'll return at, and then the place where I'm at. And if I run this application now, it should run the text at J4K. It takes a little bit of time to start up, but after a while we should be there. Oh, sorry. I have to give the config property a name. So no demo without some wrong coding. And here it says at J4K. If I want to configure this one at startup time, so I don't have to go in and configure it using this configuration file, I'll just change this one to somewhere. So the service will now return at somewhere. But if I wanted to configure it to be the exact location of where I am, I can start the application with using the system property called place equals J4K. And it will pick up this and override whatever I've coded inside the application. So when it started, it should be saying at J4K. So there we go. So that was pretty simple. Let's go and create this application further. And in this case, I'll use create a conference service that will return the name of the talk and the location. And it will use the location service to get the text at J4K. And for this one, I'll use Helidon. And in this case, I actually don't want to use the starter. I use the Helidon client tooling to create the conference application. And I've installed it here on my computer. You can find it on helidon.io. But what I'm going to do is to run the Helidon init. And it will give me the option of a standard or microprofile version. I'll choose the microprofile version. I can choose the bare without the examples. I'll call it conference. Com example. I'll call it conference. Version 1.0, that's good. Com example conference. And just generate it. And it creates everything in a folder called bare MP. So I'll just move this bare MP to conference. And I'll import it into my IDE here. Oh, sorry. There you go. The conference. And I see this is also a Maven-based project. And the conference application is very simple. It has the Greek resource, and this one returns a message in JSON. So let's just start this one in dev mode as well, and see how it behaves. And then I'll change it to return the text that I wanted to have. And also, actually, I'll go in and change the port it's running on so we don't have any conflicts. And this one was supposed to be on 8282. Let's go here, back there. Let's go. Okay. Let's go back there. Sorry about that. 8282. Go and stop it. It has port conflict, so let's start it again. So it should be up and running pretty fast. So there it's up, and let's go to port 8282, and this was called greet. And it says hello world. So let's change it to the way we want it to have. And what I want to have is I want it to be data conference. And I want it to return a string. Let's call it default message is fine. And I want it to call return the text microservice talk at, and then I'll call the location service. And the way I call the location service is actually I'll just comment this one out for a while and just return an empty string so we don't have some compilation issues. There we go. So let's go and create a location service client. And I'll use a template here to speed up the process. And what you can see here is I'm creating an interface called location service. I'm annotating it with JAX-RS annotations, saying it's at the location resource endpoint. I say registered is at REST client and register the headers, make it a CDI bean, and it's a @get call, and I'll just call the method location. So now I'm able to call it from my grid resource, inject, and I'm injecting a REST client, and it's the location service. So I'm now able to call it the location service and use the location method. So it's going to do the call to the let me just see, where am I? There you go. It's going to do a call to the /location. So I need to give it the URL for the endpoint. And what I'm going to do is to configure it using MicroProfile configuration. So I'll add the conference saying it's a common example conference location service. It has the REST URL to localhost 8484. And as you remember, it's 8484 data location. So it's at data. And then I have the /location. I'll also say propagate the authorization header if there are any. And that is for the security I'm going to add later. So what I'm doing here now in the grid resource is that I'm calling the location service to get this information. So let's go ahead and see what it does. And call the data conference. And it says microservice talk at J4K. And it actually returns the at J4K is what it gets from the location service. So let's go and create a little bit more. And I've cheated a little bit and created a time service and a day service. The day service is running on Apache Tommy and returns Wednesday. And the time service returns 1010 running on Payara Micro. So let's go and just call these. I have them running here, time and day. Let's go, just do the calls to verify that they are up and running. So it's on 8080 data, and that was the day service. And you see it returns Wednesday. And let's go to the time service. It just should be, it's on 8383 data time. And it returns 10 o'clock. So let's go and call these from the greeting service so that the text will be, you have a microservice talk at J4K Wednesday at 10 and have this service call all of these. I'm also going to add fallbacks. So if some of the services are down, it will return a meaningful text. So let's go in and do this in the greeting service. So I have the hello controller just returning hello world. So what I'm going to do is add the 3 clients. And I've created the templates for it. So first of all, I'm going to call the conference service. And what it does here is the same thing as I did with the location service. It has the path conference. It's register it as a REST client and use the headers. It's saying it's a get. And what I've added here is a timeout of half a second. So if it doesn't get an answer within half a second, it's going to fall back. And the fallback is going to be the method called say it. And the say it method is defined here as the default method in this interface. And it says, hey, just look out the window because you'll figure out where you are. So that is how I'm going to call the conference service. I'm also going to create services for the day and time. So the day service is similar. I'm not using any fallbacks here. I'll just call the day service. I rely on it that is up and running. and the time service the same way. So I have at the time, and I can call them. So now I have the three services up and running, and then I need to configure the endpoints. And I'm in the greeting service, so I go into the MicroProfile config properties, and here I'll add the endpoints. So you have the conference service on localhost 8282, and you have I have the time service on 8383, and the day service at port 8080, and also say propagate the security headers if they are there. If I go into the greeting application, what I have to do here is to inject all these clients. So inject the REST client for conference service. Inject the REST client for day service, and inject the REST client for time service. There you go. And now in the this method, I should be able to call all the services, saying, "Hey, you have a conference," and then I'll call the conference service, and then I return the day service, and then I return at, and then the time service. So if everything works, it should return the text, "You have a microservice talk at J4K Wednesday at 10. If I go in here and now do the call to the service, let's see if it works. It runs on port 8080 data hello. And it does. Okay, it said, "You have, dude, look out the window Wednesday at 10. So let's figure out what happened there. So the it appears that the conference service is probably not up and running, but it is. So let's look at what's going on here. So I'll just call the different services. First, the 8484 data location runs at J4K, and then we have the 8282 data conference. Looks good. And we have the time service and the day service has been figured out. So let's just look at the configuration here. It says 8282 data conference. So I'm not getting it, why it's not working. Can it do this simple? Conference. It's probably super simple. Yeah, you have a microservice talk at J4K Wednesday at 10. So I don't know what happened there. That's stuff that just happens. So we just have to think that it was sort of unresponsive, probably for a half a second, and then it answered. So good. The next thing we're going to do is to add some security to this. And what we're going to do is to secure the location service. So that when I call the greeting service with a JSON Web Token, this JSON Web Token will then be sent in the request to the conference and then verified at the location service. So let's start by configuring the location service to be secure. So I'll what I have to do is to first add some public keys here. So let's go into the location service and add security here. So I'll just add a a public key to the resources folder. And this key is something I will get from the I get from the token provider. I'll show how I generate the token afterwards. So I'll add the public key. Then I also need the to configure the application to know where to find this public key. So I'll go into the application properties of Quarkus and just add the configuration and say, you can find the public key here. This is the issuer, the serverexample.com, and just enable security. Then I'll go into the hello controller and say, hey, I want this to be secured, and only callers with a role called protected will be allowed to call this service. So if I now go in here and do a call to the location service, which is on 8484-data location, it should tell me that I'm not allowed to call this service. And I get a 401 unauthorized. So let's see if I can add a token to this request and see if how it works. So I've generated a token here from the server example.com, and I'll go in here and just verify this token at jwt.io so I can look at it. So I'll paste the token here. And you can see it's a JSON web token. It is the issuer server example.com. It is not expired. And it has the roles user and protected. And in this case, I'm interested in the protected role. So as long as this token has the role protected in it, I will be able to call this service. So let's add this token to the request and see if I'm allowed to call the service. I'll do the same call, only this time I'll add a authorization token. Bearer and the JSON web token. And you see, now I can call it with J4K. If I tamper with the token, it won't be allowed. So as long as I call it with the correct token, I'm good. So now this service is secured up. So that means if I now do a call to the greeting service that in turn calls the conference service, that in turn calls the location service, I would get the fallback because I'm not allowed to do it. But if I do a call to the greeting service and add the token, here, add the token here, the token will be propagated all the way through to the location service. And if I wanted to secure the greeting service as well, maybe use another sort of role. I'll just add the public key here as well. So the public key for Open Liberty is configured already here in the Open Liberty configuration file, and it's the same token, but here I'm probably interested in the user role. So everybody with the role user can call this one. So I'll add the roles allowed, and in this case I'll use the user. And as you remember from the token, we have both the roles in this one. So if I go in here, say that I misspell this one and say that it's the user's role. The token contains the user. If I now call the greeting service without the token, let me just wait till it's been started. It maybe I have to restart it since I'm changing the security configuration. So I'll just restart the greeting app again. And what I'm doing now is to call it first without a token. Then I call it with a token that has the two roles, user and protected. And as you see, I've misspelled it here to be users, so it shouldn't be allowed in any cases. Then I'll change this one to user, and we'll see if it passes through. So it's up and running, and I'll just do a call to the hello service, and you can see I'm getting a 401 here. Yeah. So if I add the token to this request, it should still give me a forbidden, since I now have the wrong role. I have a token, but it's the wrong token. So if I then go in here and say that, okay, it was actually user I was looking for, the Open Liberties restarts, and if I do the call now, it should say that I have a microservice talk at J4K Wednesday at 10. So now it's secured with the user role for the greeting service and the protected role for the location service. And I have fallbacks for the conference application. And it's a secure service using 5 different microservice implementations. So to sum up this talk, what we did was to create a secure microservice application with 5 different microservices, 5 different implementations of MicroProfile. You probably wouldn't do this in the real world and use all 5, but there's no reason why you shouldn't do it. Or if some of them gives you more features that you want to have for that particular service, you're fine to do it. They work pretty well together, and it's fairly easy to actually move a service across the implementations because it's not that different in configuration between the different implementations either. The samples for this talk is available on my GitHub. And if you're interested in more of MicroProfile, and that's also where you find the MicroProfile starter, it's at microprofile.io. And if you're interested in Jakarta EE, please navigate to jakarta.ee. So that was what I had for today, and I hope you enjoyed this talk, and I hope to see you again in a later occasion. So thank you very much for listening, and see you again.